Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a pretty significant stack of sources here. Articles, some enterprise reports, even a few deep dive technical notes. And they all seem to circle back to this one question that, frankly, sounds a little strange to be asking in 2025 with all these amazing alternatives like Arch, Fedora, Pops, even Windows 11 with WSL getting so good. Why in the world would anyone, especially a professional, still choose Ubuntu as their main OS?
It's a central tension, isn't it? And the source material we're digging into, it makes a really bold argument. I mean, it's pretty uncompromising. They basically state that after almost 18 years of use, Ubuntu is still the best choice for, and I'm quoting here, the immense majority of mortals and a lot of pros heading into 2026.
That is a big claim, a very big claim. So our mission today is to, move past the usual flame wars and look at the actual evidence. We need to see the statistics, the enterprise adoption, benchmarks they're all citing. We want to get to the technical and the practical reasons for this.
Exactly. Our deep dive has three goals based on what we've read. First, we need to really detail why Ubuntu is still so favored in professional workflows. Second, we have to tackle some of the modern myths. Ubuntu is bloated, it doesn't innovate, that sort of thing. Or that it's just a beginner's distro.
Ah.
And finally, we've just got to look at the hard data, the usage stats, the support guarantees, all of it.
All right, let's jump straight into the bedrock of that claim then. Segment 1, the foundation of trust. I mean, for any OS to last, you need stability, you need longevity. Linux users especially, they just want a system they don't have to fight all the time.
And that is precisely where Ubuntu seems to win, according to, well, every source we have. Its core strength is this super predictable release cycle. It's really engineered to give you like server stability with a desktop experience. And they do that by splitting things into two different types of versions.
Right, you've got the intermediate ones. They come out every 6 months. Those are for people who want the absolute newest features right now. But the catch is they only get 9 months of support, so you wouldn't put them on a work machine.
No way. The real workhorse is the LTS version. Long-term support. These land every 2 years, always in April of an even-numbered year. And this is where that whole commitment to stability just takes over.
And this is where the numbers get, frankly, a little staggering. Let's just focus on the current one, 24.04 Noble Numbat. The standard security updates are guaranteed until 2034. That's a decade of maintenance right out of the box.
But wait, it gets better. And this is the critical detail the sources stress for, saving time and money. If you use Ubuntu Pro, which is now free for up to 5 personal machines, that support window pushes all the way out to 2036. That is a 12-year lifespan. Just think about that for a second.
12 years. The so what of that is it's a massive reduction in your operational overhead. If you're managing a fleet of machines or even just your own dev box, that means no mandatory risky system reinstalls for over a decade. You just don't get that kind of runway on other desktop OSs.
And that stability, that insane duration of support, is why the stats back it up. You look at the 2024 Linux Question Survey, the November 2025 Steam Survey, both confirm Ubuntu, in all its forms, is still the most used distro across desktop, server, and cloud. It's the choice for people who just want to minimize surprises.
That consistency leads perfectly into our next segment too. Ecosystem dominance. Because stability is great, but it's useless if you can't install your tools, right?
Exactly. And when you look at software, Ubuntu's repositories are just vast. The sources compare it to like the world's most comprehensive library. They say you have a 99.9% chance of finding whatever you need, even super niche software, which is critical for a lot of professionals.
And the numbers are there. The official data from late 2025 shows over 68,000 packages in the main repositories. How did that actually stack up against the others?
It's a really telling comparison. Debian Stable is close, around 65,000, but the packages are generally older. Fedora is very modern, very up-to-date, but it has fewer total packages, around 55,000. And then, of course, there's Arch.
Ah, Arch. The one with the infinite packages, thanks to the AUR?
Correct, the Arch user repository. But the sources point out this hidden cost. Sure, the package count is limitless, but you are now the one responsible for compiling, testing, and maintaining them. For a professional whose time is valuable, that's basically trading guaranteed stability for unpaid work.
That time trade-off is huge. Okay, and speaking of packages, we have to talk about dependencies. The old Linux headache. This is where things like Snap and Flatpak come in, I assume.
Yep. And the sources are really pragmatic about this. They know Snap is controversial. They acknowledge the whole community debate around it. However, they say its ability to solve what they call infernal dependencies is just undeniable. A snap just runs. It has all its libraries bundled, so it solves a huge point of friction.
Right, you just take dependency hell right out of the equation. But that's software. Hardware compatibility, that can make or break a daily driver.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where Canonical's corporate backing really comes into play.
Mm.
They didn't just wait around for hardware support. They created the Ubuntu Certified Hardware Program. This means they work directly with Dell, Lenovo, HP, Intel, NVIDIA, all the big names.
And the result, as the sources put it, is zero drama. They list off examples, the new ThinkPad X1 Carbon, the Framework 16, Dell XPS models, and they say Wi-Fi 7, fingerprint readers, Thunderbolt 5, it all just works instantly.
Contrast that with the, let's say, more traditional Linux experience on other distros, where you're hunting through forums, trying to compile some driver from an old GitHub repo just to get your Wi-Fi working.
Hang on, let's break that down for a second. You mentioned compiling DKMS. What is that, and why is it such a pain?
So DKMS is Dynamic Kernel Module Support. It's basically a system that lets you use drivers that aren't built into the main Linux kernel. The problem is every time the kernel updates, which is often, that driver has to be recompiled against the new version. If that process fails, your hardware just stops working.
So the argument is that Ubuntu's partnerships mean you almost never have to do that yourself. The drivers are either already there or Canonical has made sure the process is totally seamless.
Precisely. They've outsourced the stress of it so you can just do your job.
Which brings us to segment 3, the corporate and enterprise advantage. This can be a sticky subject in the open source world, right? A big company like Canonical making money. Someone listening might think, doesn't that lead to bloat or unwanted telemetry?
It's a valid critique, and the sources tackle it directly. They argue that, yes, that tension exists, but for most professionals, the advantages of that corporate structure are just too big to ignore, and the biggest one is the speed of response.
How fast are we talking?
We're talking about paid engineering teams fixing critical zero-day security bugs in hours, or a couple of days at most. Not the weeks or months it might take a purely volunteer project. Yeah. When it's a serious vulnerability, that speed is everything.
And you can see that in their client list. The sources point to contracts with governments, big banks, Netflix, NASA. It's hard to argue with that kind of trust.
You really can't. The source really hammers this home. NASA uses Ubuntu in mission-critical workstations, and it's foundational to the ISS gateway. If it's reliable enough for space, it's probably stable enough for your code editor.
And it's not just maintenance, right? Canonical actually drives innovation.
And that's a key miss the sources want to bust. The idea that Ubuntu just repackages other people's work. They've actually developed core technologies that have shaped modern Linux. Things like Mir, NetPlan for networking, MAS for deploying on bare metal.
They also lead in the biggest computing environments. We know most supercomputers run Linux. But what about the cloud? AWS, Azure, Google Cloud?
Ubuntu is the #1 distribution there, by a long shot. And the reason goes right back to our first segment, predictability. Cloud deployments need an OS that just works and gives no surprises. The LTS model is perfect for that.
That makes the enterprise case pretty clear. Okay, let's shift to the personal experience, the desktop. This brings us to segment 4, and the myth that Ubuntu's user experience is, stale or boring.
Yeah, that critique is really out of date in 2025. The UX is incredibly polished now. They use Geno, but it's a heavily patched and optimized version of Geno. It's not just the vanilla experience. It's designed to be stable and performant above all else.
And you can change it, right? You don't have to be some coding wizard to make it look good. The sources mention easy extensions like Dash to Panel or Arc Menu that can completely change the feel.
Exactly. And the underlying tech is finally mature. Wayland has been the default for years now, which means smoother graphics, better security, proper scaling on high-res monitors. A lot of those old Linux desktop annoyances are just gone.
But what if you just don't like Genome at all?
Then you just pick a different flavor, and you still get the core stability and the giant software library. Kubuntu for KDEs, Ubuntu for XFCE, you name it. You keep the 12-year support window, and the certified hardware, you just swap out the desktop.
Okay, let's hit the elephant in the room. Gaming. The source is adamant about this. Gaming is no longer a problem.
It's a complete 180 from a decade ago. With tools like Steam Proton, Game Mode, and Control, a lot of modern games actually perform better on Linux than on Windows now, just because there's less OS overhead.
Now here's a stat that I found really interesting. Everyone talks about the Steam Deck and Arch Linux for gaming, but the November 2025 Steam survey data says something totally different about the wider PC gaming community.
It does. It shows that 70%, 70, of all Linux PC gamers are actually on Ubuntu or one of its derivatives.
Wow.
And the reason is simple. It just works. The stability and easy setup are more valuable to most people than chasing a few extra frames on a highly tweaked Arch install.
It's the stability argument winning out again. It's just easier.
So when you put it all together, the source concludes the real reason people stick with Ubuntu in 2025 is time. It's for people who want to spend their time creating or working or playing, not fighting their computer.
It's that server-grade stability in a modern desktop package, the 12-year support, the massive compatibility, and knowing there's a huge safety net if something goes wrong.
They do offer one really important warning, though. Ubuntu is not a bleeding-edge distro, and that is its greatest strength. If you need experimental features, you use a VM with Arch or something similar, but your daily driver, the machine that makes you money, that should be the predictable one.
That distinction is so important, and for anyone listening who's still skeptical, the sources have a direct challenge for you.
They call it the 7-day challenge. It's 4 steps. Step 1, back up your current system, whatever it is. Step 2, install Ubuntu 24.04 LTS in the dual boot or a VM, whatever works.
Step 3, and this is the important one, use it as your main computer for 1 full week. No cheating by booting back into your old OS.
And step 4, at the end of that week, just reflect. Ask yourself honestly, did I spend any time fighting drivers? Did my system crash? Do I still really believe Ubuntu is dead? The sources are pretty confident what the answer will be.
It's a great argument, and it comes back to that final philosophical point they make. It doesn't matter what distro you use. As long as it's Linux, you're already winning.
But if we tie all this back to that core theme of reliability, that 12-year support window, the certified hardware, it really leaves one final question for you, the listener, to think about. If your main goal is to maximize your creative time and minimize system maintenance, how much bleeding-edge innovation are you really willing to trade for the ability to just sleep soundly at night?
A question that really defines professional computing in 2025. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.